Okay. All right. So we are here with Miss Gwen. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Gwen Chapman, and I'm a friend of Caroline's. I am a member of Crossway, and I'm happy to meet y'all.
So Miss Gwen and I have been chatting for a while, and she's been sharing some of her story and some of the things that make her who she is. And there's a lot. I mean, you've got a lot of, as she had written down all of her stones. I was like, I love that. We've been talking about Joshua 3 and 4 and, how we collect stones and then share them with other people to build their faith. Mm-hmm. And I think the hardest part for you is deciding which one to talk about because they're all powerful. So if you get a chance to chat with Miss Gwen, ask her about some of those others.
Some have already chatted with me and know stuff.
Yes, there are plenty that I'm sure know some of her stone stories. But
I'm kind of an open book.
I love it, and that's all. If you hear nothing else in this video, hear that Miss Gwen will talk to you and share her stories of faith and all that sort of stuff.
And I actually can listen some too. I learned to listen with my guys in the dorm.
Yes, she was telling me about when she was dorm mom, and I'm like, what a cool thing and a great way to use your degree in counseling and all of that. Yeah, that's like the perfect spot to use it. And from what you were telling me, I'm sure you were a very good listener and an ear that those boys needed. So, yeah. But anyway, she wanted to kind of share one of the stories that involved kind of how her family evolved to be the way it was, and so we're going to kind of talk about how that was a trying time, but how God was with you through that one. So if you want to go ahead and start on that one, Miss Gwen.
Okay, well, it's hard to know exactly where to start, but I was telling Caroline that, and a lot of you, especially my TNT buds, know some of it, but when my girls were 11 and 14, my husband, their dad, left us. It was part of it, I think, was from Vietnam experiences, and part of it, a lot of it I don't understand or know till this day. But the point is, I was left with a 14-year-old and 11-year-old, and I had never really worked full time in my life, and I only had a high school education, and so needless to say, I was scared to death. I couldn't see any light at the end of my tunnel, but all I knew, there were two things I knew. I knew God. My husband may have left, but God had not left me. What I wanted to know from him, and he wasn't ready for me to know, was how this is going to end up, because I can't imagine how we're going to make it. And so what was the best part is that I still had my two daughters, and I adored them, and I didn't know how, but I knew that I was going to take care of them, and I wanted to, and I was not sure how, and I couldn't see light at the end of my tunnel, but I did know that I had, and my family, my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law, I told Caroline, I knew we would never be on the street, and I knew we would probably never go hungry. We may not always have what we wanted to eat, but we would never go hungry, and that's real important to us. So, but I guess my point in wanting to share this I called her, she had me read Joshua 3 in chapter 3 and 4, and I was reading, and I've read it 100 times over the years, and I do love the book of Joshua, but it was a good reminder, and I was reading about the stones that the head of the tribes had to go in the story about how when the priest stepped in with the Ark of the Covenant, the water parted and they went across, and the men came and got a stone for each tribe of Benjamin. I mean, there was Benjamin and all of them, but each of them had to get a stone and carry it out of the water, and the priest couldn't let the water go back until they were all through with those stones. And they set them up as memorials, and each of the tribes had this stone so that they would never forget, and their children wouldn't forget. And what really, how you read books of the Bible and chapters of the Bible and verses for years, and every time you read it, you get something new. And this time, I may have known it and forgotten it, and that's at my age getting easier to do. I can tell you what I did 20 years ago, but sometimes I can't tell you what I had for breakfast. But I will say that what blew me away reading it again was those memorial stones are still there, and it says in the Bible, to this day. I don't know where they are, and it doesn't matter, but they were left so that they could teach. When their children asked what those stones meant, they could tell them and tell them what God did for them. And then their children, they would teach their children, and they would tell their children what these stones stood for and what God had done for them, for what God had done for the Israelites, and for generations and generations. And unless my version of the Bible is wrong, it says that they are there to this very day. And that kind of blew me away, because that was a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I wrote down stones in my life, good and bad. And since, of course, those who know me know that I don't have a lot of trouble talking. So I told Caroline, give me clues when you need me to stop talking, or when you need me to wrap it up or whatever. But
Gwen is very self-aware. I love it. And we love you for it. I will tell you, one of the things that, I'm going to interrupt you, that you said, she was telling me some things beforehand, and I'm like, oh wait, save that for the video, because that was so good. And one of them was, you said there was all these points in your life where you're very honest about being a real person, and you're like, I would either have doubts or get panicky or whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
About like, how are you going to do this, God?
Exactly.
And maybe a little impatient sometimes on wanting
a lot impatient
on the answer.
I would say, and God knows me very well, and He knows, and I believe this, and I'm not asking a lot of people to, or anybody to agree with me. I believe God can handle it if you get mad at Him.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for a fact, because I've gotten mad at Him more than once.
Go read the Psalms.
And I always go back and apologize, but I would get angry because I would say, Lord, this is not working. This is not what I want. I know you're going to take care of me, but what? Where do I go from here? I can't see any light at the end of my tunnel.
Yeah.
And He never let me down.
Yeah.
He never let us down. Not only did he not let us down, I actually was able to take care of myself and my kids and my daughters. They turned out pretty good, if I do say so myself, and I'm very proud of them. But I told Caroline I would be lying, and like she said, I'm very honest, and I sometimes am too much of an open book, but I will say that there were so many times that I didn't know how we were going to make it, and it wasn't that I didn't trust God, but I just didn't know how, and I was scared, and I was depressed, and I was worried.
Yeah.
But he never, ever, ever let us down. Not only that, my children or my daughters married amazing men, and they have I have amazing grandchildren, and they all we survived pretty good from me being the biggest chicken in the world. But I guess one of my main points of wanting to share this is because I want you to know that when I was a little girl, I was like every little girl, I guess, or used to be. I was going to grow up and meet my Prince Charming and get married, and we were going to have children and live happily ever after. And that's all I ever wanted. I was not, I've never been a real ambitious in the sense of I've never felt like that I had to have a career that I had to, until I had to do something. But I'm just saying, when I was my age, and those of you that are my age understand this, most of you, is that was my goal, was to be a wife and a mother, mm-hmm. and have a family and raise them to know God, and we were going to live happily ever after. That was what I thought the general idea was in life. And when I found out that things can change, and that I guess I want those that are younger to know that life is not easy, and you've heard that, and you will continue to hear it, and I have heard it all my life, and I am almost 79 years old, and I still catch myself occasionally saying, well, that's just not fair. Life's not fair. It's not, but this is not the important life. This is not the most important, and God is going to watch out and take care of us if we'll just trust Him. And you can get impatient with Him, you can get mad at Him, you can have doubts and fears. He knows that. He made us. He knows us better than we know ourselves.
Yeah. So, you know, I've set this up so that if somebody younger or somebody newer in the faith is asking, how do I know? And I really kind of, listening to you, I'm like, that might be the wrong question of how, because He never promises to explain how or why. There's not a lot of that. There's a lot of trust me in the Bible, right? Without explanation. And so sometimes after doing a few of these interviews, I feel like when I say, what would you tell somebody? And a lot of times it's like, I don't know what I would tell them besides to trust and that He will be with you. There is no explanation. No. But one of the things that I think I would ask is, why is it worth it to trust Him?
Oh my goodness, it's so worth it. For one thing, if you don't trust God, who are you going to trust? Because sometimes the people you trusted most in life are going to let you down. We all let each other down at times. But even though, like I said, you may have doubts like I did, and fears, and depression at times maybe. And by the way, let me throw this in. Caroline will say you're getting off track, but I have some counseling and background, and I will say that I thank God that it's okay to be honest today about mental health, and it's okay to be scared and depressed and worried, and all I can say is that hang on to your faith, even if it's by a thread. Don't ever give up. Don't ever quit. You'll get tired and you don't have the answers. And you may, like me, demand God to give you the answers, and He ignores you, and not ignores you, but God, He hears you. He acknowledges you, but He's not going to tell you until He's ready, and He will tell you and He will show you. And I'll tell you why it's worth it all. Because I am in a really good place in my life now. I'm older, and I've kind of tried to fight it physically, like, you can only hide wrinkles just so long, and I don't have the money to do a lot about that. Even if I did have the money, I'm a chicken. So I'm just telling, for those of you that are kind enough or want to listen to this, don't ever, ever give up on God. And when you're weak, that's when He's strong. And He'll be strong for you, and He'll give you that strength. But He's not going to maybe tell you ahead of time how it's going to turn out. But I'm just saying, it's so worth it. Yeah. It's so worth it, Caroline. It's so worth it to any of you listening. And I'm sure those of you that listen to this know this. But I would tell anybody, it's so worth it to hang on to your faith, even if it's by a thread. Don't ever let go of God. Don't ever give up on God. And He's not going to give up on me or you. God loves us. He made us. He knows us completely in and out. He knows our weaknesses, and He knows our strength. Yeah. And He's never going to let go.
No. Oh, that's so beautifully said. Wow. I'm so glad I asked that question. That was awesome. Oh, man, sometimes I try to think about, okay, what's your next question? But I'm like just locked into listening to you. Oh, that was beautiful. I know we don't have time. I'm also trying to watch my battery, and I'm like over here praying, like, please don't die, please don't die. But
she told me if she made a wave of her hand, that meant the battery's dead.
But one of the cool things that you were telling me, this is completely in a different direction, but I think it's so worth noting, is, you talk about how you were scared of these things, and like, you've learned through the years that God is faithful, and that things that might not make sense when He doesn't tell us the why or the how He's going to do it. And Gwen shared about moving to Alabama, which she was like, Alabama, to be the dorm mom.
I cried when I took my Florida, I had a manatee tag at the time, took my Florida tag off my car and put that ugly Alabama tag on.
She was telling me that she was like, I don't even know if you necessarily wanted to do it. And then for the next 21 years, is that right? You said it was the biggest blessing, and you got to use your degree. And who would
I got my degree.
That's right, you got your degree.
Graduated from college there at 56.
And I'll just do a little teaser. Ask Miss Gwen how old she was when she became homecoming queen, right?
Some of them know.
Okay, but for those that don't know, you have to, trivia fact, go find out how old Gwen was when she became homecoming queen in Alabama. And
I will tell you that the homecoming king was 20.
and you were not 20.
No, no. And
No, I know how old.
and it was the biggest blessing. Michelle said not too long ago, Mama, look how far you come, and when you moved to Faulkner, and you and also, I hadn't told you this, but I made some of my very best friends in the entire world while I was there. And one reason I retired when I did, though, I lost my very best friend there. She was a dorm mom, and we were as close, or sometimes I think closer than some sisters, because we lived across the street. I had guys' dorm, she had girls' dorm. We walked to chapel every morning together. We went to church together. We went on girls' trips together. And believe it or not, she was as crazy as I am, and so I won't tell you all about the time that we were taking dinner to our coach's, our basketball coach's wife, and my friend Annette, who, by the way, she also thought she knew everything, but we went to the wrong house and left dinner.
Oh, that's funny.
And then I told her it was the wrong house, and she wouldn't listen. And they had recently moved, and we had to go back to that house and ask those strangers if we could have the dinner back that we left. It's a little bit longer story, but anyway, I'm just thankful we didn't get arrested.
Yeah.
And she got mad at me because I not only told her my name, I told her what church we were from, and the stranger that lived there. Anyway, those were some of my happiest years.
Yeah.
And I thank God. I thanked God every night when I went to bed for my job there. I thank God for my friends, my campus family, my church family.
Yeah. Gwen called it her. She was like, I have a bad story stone and a good story stone. She's like, this is my good story stone. And I was like, I think this is important because to me what it shows is that, you know, when we think about God saving us from all of this, and one of the things that's encouraging is somebody that, you know, I'm looking for those faith stories I can relate to of like, you know what, if we trust God through the process and through the journey, kind of like the Israelites wandering around in the desert, if we trust Him, sometimes He's sparing us from something bad and getting us through something that's hard, and sometimes He's setting us up for something that we just have no idea how incredible it's going to be. And He's like, I need you to get across this river. I need you to look back on how I've been faithful in like the things that were hard, but also He's the one that orchestrates all of these blessings in our life. Such as, like, who knew that would be such a thing? So I think that's so cool.
And I feel like that God used me. They called me, I told her that the guys in the dorm and the girls that they all called me Mama Gwen, and they call me Mama Gwen, Mama G, Big Mama, not Big Mama. Maybe, one did call me Little Mama. Little Mama. But anyway, my point is that we lived together, and they got to know me, and I feel like that some of them, a lot of them, shared things that they maybe could not or were not willing to share with their parents. We had a marvelous counselor, but I think they got to know me better than anybody because we actually lived together, and they saw the good and the bad and the ugly in me. They also knew that they could trust me with anything that they told me, and I never even shared it with the counselor, who was one of my best friends. But I feel like that God not only gave me such a blessing to be there, but I feel like He gave me a unique opportunity that not everybody gets to be a blessing and to share with those guys. And if there's time, I'd like to just tell this one. It was a guy. He was pretty rough, and a lot of people think if you go to a private Christian university or school that everybody there is a Christian, and especially as we got more and more athletic departments. But this guy, he came, and he was, the first time I met him, as y'all know me, that know I'm a hugger and a toucher, and but this guy, I'm also kind of good at reading, what do you call it?
Emotions or?
No, not, well, emotions, but body language.
Yeah.
And if I barely touch someone on the shoulder and be jerk, that lets me know they're not a hugger or. But anyway, this particular guy, like I said, he at first was very quiet and shy and was always polite to me, but kind of held back. And he was there for 2 semesters, and I will say by the end of the semester, he would come up and hug me and say, "Hey, Mama Gwen, how are you? I love you."
Oh.
And I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry, Caroline.
It's okay.
The day that he was leaving, I got up that morning, and there was a note under my door, and it said, "Mom Gwen, don't think I can hang around to tell you goodbye, but I just want you to know that you're the closest thing I ever had to a mother." And that was one of the biggest blessings, and that reminded me from then on why I did what I did and lived with a bunch of crazy guys. Because the thing is, I didn't do any more for him than I did for any of the others.
But he needed it.
But he needed that, and God knew he needed that. And then I needed to know that I made a difference in his life.
Yeah.
So, I'm so sorry. I'm such a baby.
Oh, you were not the first to cry in front of this camera.
Oh.
Can't remember who it was. Might have been Buck? No? But yeah, no, I love it. I mean, it's your heart, and that is, man, what a beautiful thing that God knew before either of you were born that you would need to be in Alabama and that boy would need to go to school
Yes.
there, so that God could use you in a way that you didn't get to feel like, oh, I've got the credit, I'm so special, I made this huge impact. You just thought you were doing what you did for everybody else.
Yeah.
And it God
But he
used
has never
you.
had anything.
So my camera just told me low battery, and I think that is absolutely perfect time, because I think there's so much more Miss Gwen needs to say, but
No, I'll quit.
I'll leave her crying. I'm gonna go get my Mama Gwen hug, and you will forever be Mama Gwen now in my book.
That's okay. Well, several do still call me Mama Gwen, because some of them, well, when we were at Meridian Woods, some of those people, their guys came to Faulkner, and some of them lived in my dorm, so
Love it.
they call me Mama Gwen.
That's the best. Well, I'm gonna get my Mama Gwen hug. Thank you so much for being willing to do this with me.
Well, I said I've only seen myself on video once, and I looked like I'd had a stroke.
Oh my
And
God.
I don't know what it is, but
You look
that was
beautiful.
all I know is that I'm just me, like I always am. So it's the only person I know to be.
We love you for it.
I love
Miss
you.
Gwen.